On today's episode of the Unwritten Rule, we got more award season for Mizzou football. We'll run through those. Then we're going to do some quick basketball recruiting updates because Jayden Quaintance happened. So we'll give an update here on him ending up picking Kentucky. And then we have two really great interviews. We're going to start with a Florida preview. We got Brandon Haynes of the Columbia Missourian on. Had to bring back another Como sports alum. So we previewed the game with Hack. Great interview with him. And then very special guest as well. We talked some Mizzou men's basketball with Ben Sternberg. So we brought Benny back on. Of course, if you're a fan of our show, back when it was on KCOU, we had him and Noah Carter on back in May. So we got Benny on. We're hoping we'll have him on a couple times actually during basketball season. So more to come on that. But a great interview with him. Recap the SIUE game, gave a preview. By the time this show drops, the Minnesota game will be done, but we gave our thoughts anyway, just because that's their first Power 5 test. And then we finished the show up with quick hits. Got all sorts of fun stuff. Jerseys of the week. We did our NFL preview, Shawn East Maine Birds, and the best things we learned to end the show. So great show for you guys. And it's all presented by Bet Online. The last of the major pro sports leagues is off and rolling. College basketball is underway as well. Bet Online remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. We got NFL, college football, UFC, NHL, NBA too, all in full swing. We have the Bet Online lines for our Fantastic Four NFL picks. So stay tuned for those. All the hoops betting action as well, and every sport available right at your fingertips on both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to Bet Online today, and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts, and the Unwritten Rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Peyton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to the Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, November 17th, and Jayden Quaintance is a Kentucky Wildcat. That's right, Kenny and Peyton. I know we have Mizzou award season to talk about, but I am choosing to talk about this news first. The five-star center from the 2024 class did end up picking the Wildcats, and the first question I have, did he have a video? Because I know he took the YouTube page got taken down, and then all of a sudden Tipped and Edits had a graphic that had him in a Kentucky uniform. So a very weird situation there. Missouri fans had some late optimism with him maybe switching where he was going to go when he took down the video, or maybe having a second guess, so to speak. But yeah, Quaintance is a Wildcat. Your thoughts?
I hate five-star recruitments a lot. That's my takeaway. Ryan Wingo and Quaintance, those both suck to lose. And Kenny had a good tweet about it off the Unwritten Rule. I mean, this is still going to be pretty damn good class, to say the least. But, when you're in the final two of a five-star, and some of the chatter is about maybe he will, like Mizzou really did have his attention, you want to see your team win that. They didn't. It kind of became apparent as the week wore on that it was looking more and more like Kentucky. The crystal balls poured in for him. There was no reverse Wingo. So it is what it is. He signed early. I don't believe Mizzou will have a chance to get him back. It is what it is. The high school class is now complete. I don't even think they're linked to anybody else in 2024. And that's fine. It's still a great freshman class. It's still 5-3 or 4, I think 4-star, depending on who you ask, or better recruits. So now you can just take that scholarship that you would have used on Quaintance, use it for a need in the portal. That's what it is, basically.
There's an opportunity for Mizzou to get Jayden Quaintance. Calipari just has to be fired because it opens up an opportunity that you can break your letter of intent and look at another opportunity if your coach that recruited you is no longer there. That's not going to happen. But Peyton, I'm glad you brought up the tweet, because as you know, when you talk to Missouri fans, and this could be, coping, you call it loser mentality. It's still awesome. I mean, it's an awesome class. And to look it back, we loved Konzo Martin. He's a great guy. I mean, had some struggles, recruiting. One of his best recruits that we talked about is Luther Burden, because he helped. We heard rumors that he helped on the football side because he was friends with Luther's dad. But jokes aside, I mean, the recruiting wasn't his strongest part of his game as a coach. And look at that 2020 class. It's Jordan Wilmore, and that's it. That's it from high schoolers going into that season. It was just Jordan Wilmore. And then you look at this class. Trent Burns, Aner Boateng, Peyton Marshall, Marcus Allen, all 4 stars according to Rivals, and then T.O. Barrett also on there. And it's a good James Walker on X replied to us. It's not just one of the best recruiting classes in Mizzou basketball, it's one of the tallest. There's a lot of athletes here and just great size coming in. 7'2", 6'5", 6'10", 6'7", and 6'5". These are seniors in high school, and I mean there's a lot to grow there. When we talked to Trent Burns, he talked, he's still trying to put on some weight, put on some muscle into his frame. These guys are getting started early, and it does suck if you're a Mizzou fan and you see a 5-star come down to 2. Also, a great feeling for the future. If the staff is in these discussions early, only in year 2, just think about what could happen down the line. Another 5-star could fall in their lap.
Yeah, Kenny, that's loser talk. We want every 5-star ever. I'm just kidding. No, I think you're completely spot on. Let's not complain here. Look at where we were. Kenny, you did a great job humbling everybody on Twitter who was upset. I think and people have a right to be disappointed. Like Peyton said, it's nothing personal towards the player. It sucks to not land, have a highly recruited guy land at your school. That sucks, but you're right. I think there's plenty of reasons to still be optimistic about that. But Quaintance, not a Tiger, but perhaps if Calipari gets fired, they lost to Kansas. Peyton will get to that in his quick hit, or one of his quick hits. So, never know. But yeah, that's an update there. Going back to football, we're going to preview, we'll cut to ourselves later previewing the Florida game with Brandon Haynes, but we need to do this quick. I'm going to run down the award season. I have so many tabs open. My computer is running like a goddamn steam train because they're up for so many awards. So I'm going to rattle them off here, and you guys tell me if I missed anyone. Mizzou football award nominations. Brady Cook, Davey O'Brien, quarterback award semifinalist. We got Kevin Peoples, Mizzou's defensive end coach, up for the the Broyles Award for the nation's top assistant coach. Joe Moore Award for Mizzou's O-line. Cody Schrader on the Burlsworth Trophy finalist for Cody Schrader for the best walk-on. Let's see. We had co-head coaches of the week. Drinkwitz got it along with Shawn Moore for Michigan. We miss you, Harbaugh. And let's see. Darius Robinson, defensive lineman of the week. Luther Burden, Maxwell Award semifinalist for a receiver. And the Chuck Bednarik Award semifinalist for Chris Abrams. Drain. Did I miss anything?
You missed one.
Oh my God.
It was okay. I mean, there was a lot. Cody Schrader was also
the
Doak Award, Doak Walker Award, National Player of the Week last week. Of course he was. And the one thing I'll point out about Peoples is that he's on the watch list for it. It's a long list. Last year Blake Baker was on it, and I think it's pretty cool what Peoples has done when you look at where this offensive or defensive line has gone in 1 year. He's the exterior defensive line coach, and you see what he did with D-Rob, getting Darius Robinson back into the shape to be an edge rusher, really turned his career around. And did not even turn it around, just elevated it because he was great as a defensive tackle, moves him back out to edge. And that's what he's going to be when he goes pro.
I will also say Peoples has done a phenomenal job because, I remember people were concerned about DN coming into the year. They've pretty much done a phenomenal job just rotating guys in. Niles Gaddy has been great. Austin Firestone has had a moment or two. Joe Moore has had a moment or two. There's really been just a lot of great contributions off the edge. Obviously, Johnny Walker, too. Can't forget about him. He's been excellent. So he definitely deserved it. I was a little surprised to see no Kirby Moore and no Blake Baker on those lists. But you know what? I think that's actually well-deserved because both of those guys actually really stink at their job. And Mizzou will just have to live with them for another 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
So honestly glad we didn't see them on the list. But Yeah, no, and I would totally expect Cody Schrader to just outright win the Burlsworth at this point. I think his story even like just is probably the
What's
most
his
well
story
known.
again? I haven't been told it 35 times.
Jack Knowlton, I'm not sure if you know this, but Cody Schrader walked on to Mizzou after a booster showed Elijah Drinkwitz his bit. We all know the story, but I would expect him to absolutely win it.
Yeah. That you answered my question, but I was just gonna say, like, at this point, who's maybe the most likely shoe-in for winning one of these? And it's gotta be Schrader with the Burlsworth Trophy. But who knows? Maybe some of these guys can maybe steal one if they keep playing really, really well the rest of the way. Do they give these? This is a dumb question, so I'm sorry, but do they give these after bowl games or before?
A lot of the
honestly
awards are
don't remember.
different.
Okay, it varies.
So some can announce them before. There's also awards are announced like right before the Heisman as well.
Yeah.
A list of them are like Maxwell trophies around that time. So there's an award show. ESPN does it.
Right.
You can watch it there, but it depends because some of them aren't affiliated with the award show. Some of them are. It's more you just have to look it up, and if you want to know which one's which, because like the Rotary Lombardi Trophy, or our friend Max votes for, which is just a piece of like granite, like on like a spork. That one's pretty cool, and I think that's one of the ones that goes through ESPN.
Okay. Yeah. So listen to that show. I'm sure we'll retweet it all, so people can follow along. I always get mixed up in where all that goes, but yeah, a bunch of those guys up for award season, so we'll keep an eye on that. And with that, without any real further ado, we'll cut to ourselves. We're going to talk to Brandon Haynes of the Columbia, Missouri, and do the Mizzou-Florida preview. So stay tuned and check that out. Okay, we now welcome on a very special guest. We got to preview the Florida game, and we had to dig back into the Como sports world. Columbia Missourian, best newspaper out there, unbiased. Kenny Payton and I all covered various beats, and we had Rendell Shepard on, one of 3 Mizzou football beat writers this year who have taken the guard from Kenny last year. But we have Brandon Haynes on now, another Mizzou football beat writer. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us. First thing I want to ask you, how cool was it? I know, can't cheer in the press box, number one no-go, but just how cool was it seeing the environment for that Tennessee game when the boys got the big win? Also, thank you for coming on, and welcome to the Unwritten Rule.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Tennessee game was just an exciting time. Obviously, I don't think many people have seen Mizzou dominate a game quite like they did against Tennessee in several years. Just the ability to kind of watch a record-breaking performance like Cody Schrader had, obviously 200-plus rushing yards, 100-plus yards receiving, was just something cool. And it just kind of goes back to the story that he has, and everybody's heard it probably about 100 times just being around the team. But it's still cool to kind of see and be a part of that journey and be able to kind of talk about it, like experience it, just kind of see it. And having another sold out crowd at Mizzou, obviously this is the first time since 1980 that they had 4 straight sellouts. So kind of being able to cover the team at a point right now is something that I definitely don't take for granted, and it's something that means a lot to me.
Yeah, it was it's an awesome thing to do, going to all those places too as well on the football beat. It feels like a job more than anything, and I bet you feel that right now. And kind of starting off though with our preview here is, we're talking about Cody Schrader. How is he going to continue it against Florida? And I mean, who are some of those guys on Florida that you've maybe heard or you've maybe just done some research on in your own preview that we need to look out for?
Yeah, especially on defense. Florida lost one of their top defenders, Shamar James, earlier this year. He was a linebacker there. He led the team in tackles, still actually kind of does, even though he's been out for the past 2 games. That was a big injury for their defense, obviously their top defender. One thing about Florida, I was talking with the beat reporter from the Orlando Sentinel yesterday, and he kind of talked to me about how Florida plays a lot of youth on defense. I think they got 30% of their defense is freshmen. And so that just tells you a lot. They have a lot of inexperience on that side. They give up some explosive plays, kind of struggle with some of the open field tackling, stuff like that, things that come as a freshman. And so for Cody Schrader, it's just going to be about kind of dominating the line of scrimmage with the offensive line, kind of using that experience that Mizzou has up there to kind of just pound and constantly pound the rock just against them, kind of like what they did against Tennessee. And Florida has a much less explosive and dynamic defensive line, so it's something that they could definitely continue to wreak havoc on, and I think that's something that they're going to try to emphasize. I know for Florida, obviously they're going to try stopping Schrader, but kind of as I talked about yesterday with the reporter, if Florida tries to stop Schrader, you got Burden and you got Brady Cook and you got these other options that Missouri has. And so it's going to be a pick your poison there with what Florida can do. And that's just something we're going to see tomorrow.
And one unit that has kind of helped Schrader be able to have the season he's had is the O-line. The O-line has obviously been much improved from last year. What kind of has been the key for them, especially even earlier in the year when they were committing a lot more penalties? I mean, what's kind of been the key for their turnaround? And what has Drinkwitz kind of said has been the key for them?
I think there's a couple things. First of all, it's the hire of Brandon Jones. Came from Houston, the new offensive line coach. I think the group has just bought in under him. Jones, a former center himself, was able to specifically work with Connor Tollison on some of the issues that he had last year. And he's become now more of a leader along that line. I think that's something that's been extremely important. Like, you got somebody that you can consistently count on. Yes, there's a couple issues with the snaps at times, but the offensive linemen around him are kind of rallying around him. And then penalty-wise, Drinkwitz talked about it a couple weeks ago, just bringing in referees at practice. And while it's something that you think would be common practice, it's not something Mizzou had done. And so they started doing it a couple weeks ago. You've seen it in their past few games, their ability to limit false starts, holdings, and just kind of command that line of scrimmage. And so I think those two things working alongside each other, along with the veteran leadership that you have in Javon Foster, Xavier Delgado, and then the explosiveness of Armand Membu, are kind of the traits that have kind of made this offensive line much better than it was last season.
That's interesting. I didn't know that about the bringing the refs to practice. I know I read a thing. I think like Mike Tomlin did that with the Steelers the other week because they were getting in penalty trouble. So that seems like a smart thing.
Yeah, you wouldn't think about it normally, but
yeah,
I had asked about it and I was curious about it just because they had seen it, and I think it's just something that they seriously needed. I think you saw early in the season that, especially the false starts. I mean, it was kind of crazy with how many self-inflicted mistakes they had. But you've seen it now against Kentucky. I think they only had one false start, and they did it again against Tennessee, I believe. So just those types of environments are something that's good for them.
It also opened up a way for Drinkwitz to troll because he took a photo with one of the refs and apologized for his actions in Georgia.
100%.
He was out there trolling. And I think it's interesting with what you said about Tollison too, because I think the three of us have been looking for like the reason why it's kind of working, because he does have some of those, eye-popping mistakes. We saw it obviously against LSU. So it seems like to some extent he's cleaned those up, but it seems like the leadership value is what is helping the rest of these offensive linemen sort of, make up for that or still play well in spite of some of those earlier errors. And I think this year we're nitpicking more than anything because they have been overall pretty darn good. I want to ask you this, and Kenny and Peyton, I want to get your takes after Brandon, because we want to broaden this out because we haven't recorded since the CFP rankings dropped, and Mizzou came in at 9th, which I think to most was a pretty darn pleasant surprise from what we thought. We knew they were going to be up there with a big win in Tennessee, but landing in the top 10, Brandon, what's your thoughts on that? Were you surprised to see that? And then Peyton and Kenny, you guys, I want y'all's take on that, because I was definitely, pretty surprised to see them end up in that top 10 spot.
Yeah, I wasn't completely shocked. I was curious as to where they'd rank Mizzou versus obviously Louisville and Oregon State. I think those are three that you kind of look at and you're like, okay, a 1-loss Louisville, but they struggled against 2-win Virginia. So you knew that possibly Mizzou had a shot. Oregon State, the other 2-loss team, Pac-12 maybe best conference, so you didn't know how it kind of stack up there. And Oregon State saw as a path to jump them. But my biggest takeaway was the fact that Mizzou's in line for a New Year's Six bowl if they can just continue the momentum. Obviously, Oregon State's the one that can kind of jump up there. But as far as New Year's Six go, you're 4 spots ahead of Ole Miss, who is your biggest SEC competitor. You're above every other 2-loss team, including Penn State. So just those opportunities and the pathway just seems a lot easier than it did a few weeks ago. And a big part of that is you needed to beat Tennessee the way you did, and they did that. So they've kind of set themselves up for kind of success there.
Yeah, we talked about this at length before that it's, the process for the college football playoff ranking is a lot different than the AP poll, a lot more factored in. It's a group of people actually meeting together. It's not just people submitting a top 25. They have to sit down, and it's like us when we were in college. We would sit down
Yeah.
for 2
Hash it
hours
out.
and hash it out, like where we think people go, strength of schedule, results, championships won, common opponents, and there's so much more that goes into it. And for Mizzou, it's like an SEC program. I mean, they almost beat LSU, almost beat Georgia. They outplayed Georgia to some standards, and I think you look at where Missouri is. They're a team that if they'd had those 2 wins, they'd be in that top 6, and that's where maybe even top 4. It's just that's a team that like 2 plays away, 3 plays away that they would be an undefeated team. So I totally understand 9.
I was pretty shocked just because I do think Missouri is a better team than Louisville, but I didn't think as long as Louisville only had 1 loss, they were going to be ranked that way. But I, they certainly earned it. I mean, their 2 losses are against the now number 1 team in the nation by 9 in a game that really they could have won. I mean, I'm not saying they should have, but they really could have. And LSU, I mean, they're the CFP number 15, even despite 3 losses. So the committee, I guess, likes what it has seen, and that win over Tennessee definitely looks key by now.
Want to get back into part of the preview here with another question about the Florida Gators. I was doing some research, and I know Trevor Etienne is one of the I got the right Etienne there. Trevor Etienne, yeah. So Trevor Etienne's one of the best returners in the country. I think he's top 5 in kick returns. And I know you posted some stuff about what they were going to do on kickoffs. We saw Blake Craig out there in the first half last week. Has there been any conversations, any talk about stopping him and what the special teams looks like moving forward?
There hasn't been much discussion. There wasn't in the press conference, but I know in general the kickoffs have been just a topic of conversation. I'm assuming they'll go back to Harrison Mevis again as they did in the second half. They said they liked a bit what Blake Craig did, but still wasn't able to get to the end zone, and that's the biggest thing. Mevis has said the biggest problem for him in getting it to the end zone has been adjusting via field goal kicks and kickoff kicks, which may not seem that big, but you think about the looseness of it. Because kickoff, you just got to let it fly, whereas a field goal, you got to be precise in the mechanics and stuff. And so that's been the biggest thing. I know that's something that they're working on. It'll be extremely important, obviously, in the field position game and getting those kickoffs to the end zone, through the end zone. And Trevor Etienne just has an ability to do things with the ball in his hands. So that's just going to be huge. We'll see kind of what they trot out. I assume, like I said, it'll be Harrison Mevis, but the emphasis will be there to kind of stop Florida from beating you in the special teams game.
And obviously, you mentioned special teams. I think most people would expect Mizzou to win this game. Mizzou comes in as an 11.5-point favorite. But I would say, like, Florida is obviously a 5-5 team. They're fighting for bowl eligibility. They play Florida State next week. They're probably going to give Mizzou their best shot. What is going to be the key? Like, what's one area Mizzou has to make sure they control to avoid an upset? I know you touched on special teams there, but is there anything else that Mizzou maybe has to make sure they keep in control to avoid a letdown?
Yeah, I think last year we saw Florida dominate the run game in particular. I think that's another area that they're emphasizing. Mizzou has a top 20 run defense, so it's not like that's been an issue this season, but you got the 2-headed monster, Trevor Etienne and Montrell Johnson. So you got to stop those 2 at the line of scrimmage and kind of control the tempo like you did against Tennessee. Mizzou out time of possession Tennessee by like double what they had. So if you can do a similar thing to what you did against Tennessee with Florida, you kind of limit their explosiveness. With Graham Mertz, what you'll see is somebody who can get completion percentage up, but he's not somebody who'll take a lot of shots down the field. That's why he has the lowest number of interceptions at SEC. He focuses a lot on the short passing game, kind of like what Brady Cook did last year towards the end of the season, kind of those short passes, side to sides, nothing really too deep shot-ish. Florida actually ranks last, and I think 30-plus yard completions down the field in the SEC. So it's not somebody you're going to take shots with. So controlling that run game and kind of knocking that down on first and second down will kind of help improve your opportunity to kind of squeeze out a victory there.
Okay, you partially answered it already because I did want to ask you about Mr. Graham Mertz. I'm quite familiar with the Gators quarterback. So that what you said seems to check out there. But in terms of if they're not as dangerous on those kind of explosive plays, I know in terms of wide receivers, Ricky Pearsall's been his guy. I think he's 5th in the SEC in receiving yards. And in addition, you mentioned ETN on the ground. How have you noticed, I guess, Pearsall maybe in particular working with Mertz, or even just, how Florida kind of can burn Mizzou in the short game? And then, maybe what do the Tigers have to do to kind of shore up that part of it in order to, kind of not get burned with those chunk plays on like short yardage situations?
Yeah, I think the biggest struggle for Mizzou on those short yardage plays has been the tackling. Those issues really popped up early in the year, including Tyron Hopper, just the inability to bring players down in open space. And so that's going to be a primary point of emphasis with Pearsall in general. I mean, he's just a dynamic playmaker. Graham Mertz is obviously favorite target. I think over 25% of his passes have gone straight to Ricky. And he has a chance to become the first Florida receiver since 2002 to hit that 1,000-yard receiving mark. So he's obviously a dynamic threat. They love him. He's just somebody that can kind of change the game with his speed. Not to kind of be forgotten, Eugene Wilson as well. He's a receiver there. He has dynamic speed along the line of scrimmage, and they'll put him in motion about every single play, just to kind of like what you see with Luther Burden a lot of times. So those types of threats, you'll just need to focus on obviously getting them stopped early. Trying to play up a bit, I think, is going to be key, and especially in those man coverage situations where you can kind of stop that short yardage game. But the open field tackling is just going to be the biggest thing. Where if they can bring them down, I think you have a better chance at limiting kind of their dynamic explosiveness. But you got to do that first.
There's been many a rant about the open field tackling on this show from one Mr. Hopper in particular. That's a wild stat, by the way. 2000, Florida hasn't had a 1,000-yard receiver since then.
2002, yeah.
2002.
Wow.
No, Harvin didn't do it. That's wild.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect it, but I learned that yesterday.
Yeah, they were great in the mid 2000s. It's a wild stat.
All right, pivoting here. Entering this game, Missouri is 6-6 all time against Florida, and very similar to the Tennessee series, all time series. We don't know the next time they're going to play Florida. This is it's undecided. 2024 schedule is out. No Florida Gators on it. Mizzou has done a good job of not looking too far ahead. We talked about this last time we were on here. It's the 1-0 mentality, win each week, nameless, faceless opponent. What have you kind of heard from these players, not taking Florida for granted, looking at this season? They haven't had the best one, but they've beaten Tennessee. I mean, they've beaten, good teams, but they've also lost some bad games. What have you kind of learned from them, just, taking it by a week-by-week basis?
Yeah, and I talk about this a little bit in my preview, but one of the things that's interesting about this team is it feels like they're on a revenge tour of sorts. Most of the teams they've lost to last year, Kansas State, Tennessee, Kentucky, they've all knocked out this season. Florida's next on that list. I asked a little bit about that to the players. Dalen Carnell says he still remembers last year's game, but also just the fact that he remembers every team that beat them the year before. And that's something that is a discussion in the locker room at times and adds a little bit extra motivation. So I know at least with Florida, they have their eyes on them, especially after what happened last year where the defense got gashed on the ground for over 200 rushing yards. So they're going to be motivated to come out. Also, it's senior day. And obviously following the performance Schrader had, but also just what this senior group has meant to the team to buy in, come back, I think is really important to each of the players. And I know they're going to be motivated to do it for them because obviously they don't have a shot at the SEC East title, but they know that they have a chance to do something special with a 10-win season possibly. And so that's been kind of the mindset is win for them, kind of come out and just be aggressive and kind of take control because you still control part of your own destiny in determining what bowl you get, which does help with next year's transfer portal, recruiting, stuff like that. So that's kind of been the message.
I'm glad you touched on senior day there because that was actually my next question. Obviously, some of the seniors on this team, I know Robinson already kind of touched on it. They've kind of seen the worst of what Mizzou has been at times. I mean, they've been through a lot of up and down 500 seasons, but now obviously culminating with maybe a 10-2 record. Has that kind of? I know Robinson obviously touched on it. Has that really been kind of the message from a lot of the seniors? Just kind of like, wow, I can't believe we really turned it around like this? Or what's just kind of the feeling from the senior class?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is I wouldn't say they're surprised, but I think they're just motivated in general because this is the reason they came back, and they all spoke it and stuff. Whether you believed it or not, regardless, they believed in this team and what they could do, and I think it's nice for them and just kind of an experience for them to see it happening actually on the field. Robinson has been caught in kind of disbelief a few times just when we ask him questions about this kind of thing. He's talked about it a bit, but just the ability to come out here and be a possible 10-win team in the SEC is something that obviously they dreamed about and the reason they decide to come back. So I think it's something that they don't take for granted and something that's kind of helping them make the most of their final year and kind of shows why they made the decision to buy into Drinkwitz, buy into the coaching staff, buy into everybody in the organization to just give it that one more year and kind of stay a Missouri Tiger.
Yeah, definitely. I think you make some good points there, and your take on the bowl game too, helping with recruiting. That reminded me. I did want to ask you about that because it's been, our take on this show is like, after they missed out on Wingo, we've coined the term rage recruiting, that Drinkwitz is now trying to get into his flip miss mentality and flip guys. What's been, and you and maybe the consensus between you beat writers, just y'all's take on recording since the Wingo thing kind of happened? What have you kind of heard in terms of where Drinkwitz is going? Because obviously it's still a recruiting class that I think still ranks last in the SEC right now, but it's certainly set to change if Drinkwitz has his way with this flip miss stuff.
Yeah, I think as far as the recruiting class goes, obviously the flip miss season is upon us, and just the fact that I know Mizzou has an Arkansas commit visiting this weekend. They've had a couple other players at least announced that they're considering it. Jamarian Burnett, I believe it is, was committed to Auburn, and he decommitted, and I know that's been somebody who's rumored to Mizzou. So I think Mizzou's targeting some of these SEC guys now that they've kind of emphasized their ability to win and kind of make an impact in the SEC. So they're going after some of those guys. One of the things, though, that I keep coming back to is with this Mizzou team next year, I think you're just going to see an infusion of portal players again. Because, I mean, if you look at the roster, you can bring in all these 4- and 5-star recruits, right? But it's not going to immediately elevate you to the level you want to be at, especially with Luther Burden and his final year before NFL draft eligibility. So you want to be able to get guys that can come in and immediately make an impact. And I think that's something you're going to see actually more of kind of as this portal season goes on, because you want to emphasize one of these last seasons of Brady Cook, regardless of what decision he makes. So you want to kind of capitalize on the momentum you have now, kind of hop in and still capture the magic that you still have. And so I think that's something that we're going to see more of. Now, obviously, you're going to have some guys flip and commit. I think we'll see a couple of these SEC guys, maybe an Arkansas receiver. These two of them have kind of mentioned that they're at least considering Mizzou. So you could see that, but I think the biggest emphasis is going to be on portal.
Okay, I like that.
I'm going to put you on the spot here now. I mean, you're not going to be on the beat next year, but I want you to give me, maybe two positions, one on offense, one on defense, where you think they would heavily try to get someone out of the portal to replace. Like someone like Theo Weiss might leave. Because he's a senior, he's going to leave. Was there a wide receiver? No, I mean, you're not going to give me a wide receiver name, but is a wide receiver position you'd expect them to go after?
I think receiver is actually maybe not one of the positions I'd say. I'd actually lean more towards offensive line, because obviously Foster and Delgado are going to be on the way out. So you're going to need somebody to replenish that side. So I think you're going to possibly see Logan Reichert step up into a spot maybe. We'll kind of see how his development's going. But also you'll need to target somebody in the portal to kind of hash that out. Cameron Johnson hasn't looked the best since coming. He's kind of been better in the past few weeks, but his penalty issues are something of a cause for concern. So I think portal's going to be big there. Also on the D-line, I think in general, because Darius Robinson's leaving. You still got Johnny Walker and Niles Gaddy who have kind of impressed, but I think you're still going to need another impact player. And, I mean, another position that you're obviously going to look at is cornerback, with Chris Abrams-Drain and Ennis Rakestraw probably on the way out. So those are three main positions I'd look at. Obviously got depth at several of those, so it's not like they're left if they don't go and achieve those positions, but I think those are going to be the primary points of emphasis entering next season.
Kenny Brandon might be him. You put him on the spot, and he absolutely dominated that question.
That was great. I like that. And I know there's a lot of wide receivers to be excited about in the 2023 class, even in 2024. We talked about James Madison too, and that was a great answer. And I think linebacker is a position that I would maybe look at. Just I know with Chad Bailey out for the season, Tyron Hopper might be moving on to pro ball. I think that's a position that I would look at as well.
Yeah, and I didn't mention it either, but running back as well. I mean, with Cody Schrader and Nathaniel Pete on the way out. I mean, that's what I mean. There's a lot of positions that you need to cover, and you don't necessarily want true freshmen in each of them. So that's why I think the portal could just be a big point of emphasis.
Yeah. Brandon, I just have two more questions for you, and actually one of them is for Kenny, but I'll ask the one to you first. I have to get your take. We are a Brett Norfleet podcast. We have hitched our wagon to Brett Norfleet being at least a Mizzou great, if not a great tight end at the next level when his time is done. So I would like your thoughts on Brett Norfleet first and foremost.
I'm on the Brett Norfleet train as well, I believe.
Yes,
so,
love to hear that.
I think Brett Norfleet obviously hasn't gotten as many of the catches and targets as you may want to see if you're a Brett Norfleet fan, but overall his ability to run block, kind of just impact the game in those ways, I think is something that's really stood out. I know on several Schrader's dominant runs, he's had the key block to kind of allow him to get that next level. And I think those are small things that you may not notice as a fan, but when you kind of dive deeper into kind of who he is and what kind of player he is, he's willing to kind of make that play to kind of help the team reach the next level. I think you'll see as Theo Weiss maybe goes on, or some of these other guys find new opportunities, you'll see Norfleet kind of worked into offense a bit more. We've seen him with some great contested catches, just his ability to kind of impact the game. And I think he's definitely one that could become a Mizzou great, with his ability to just impact the game, catch any contested ball. I feel like he's a guy that you put on a little bit more muscle, you continue to work at those opportunities, you'll kind of get those as they come along.
I just had a thought. I think if anyone wants to be a Brett Norfleet fan, like the name of a Brett, like the fandom should just be the Fleet. Like you're part of the Fleet. You're part of the Brett Norfleet fleet. Yeah, I agree with the run blocking thing, especially. And then my last question, Kenny, I'll actually save you the trouble because Brandon, I want to ask you this. It's been a great season for Mizzou. You can be selfish, and Peyton, you can weigh in here if you like as the bowl expert here on this show. Brandon, what bowl game, if it's New Year's 6, whatever, would you most like to see Mizzou get in terms of like, I would love to travel to this city, would love to go see this stadium. Which one would you pick if you could have your way reasonably? Obviously, we're not talking CFP here, but you know, whether it's NY6, what bowl game do you want the Tigers to get?
Yeah, I know a lot of ideas being floated out. I actually would like the Fiesta Bowl. I have not been out to Arizona before. I think that would be kind of just a cool experience. It's one of those, I believe they match up against Pac-12 opponent, if I'm correct. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a bowl guy as much, but if they had a chance to match up against like an Oregon or even an Oregon State, depending on how that kind of ranks out, it'd be interesting and kind of cool to just experience that. I think they'd have a fun matchup there, and in either of those two teams, they kind of pit the SEC against the Pac-12 a bit, which would be something fun to watch. And I know, as far as some people I know Parker Gillum, one of my buddies that writes, he's a big Oregon fan, so it'd be kind of cool to see Mizzou play them and kind of hear his take on it and just kind of experience that. So yeah. That
game might be like 65-60.
Oh, 100%. It'd be exciting. Yeah.
That'd be a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Good take.
It's funny you say Mizzou versus Oregon State because last year there were ideas that the Las Vegas Bowl would be Oregon State versus Mizzou, and now it's like two teams that could be in a New Year's Six Bowl. It's like a year later, which is cool to see. I'm very jealous of you. I will say that. I mean, I went to Tampa, Florida. I got to go to Raymond James. That was awesome. But to be in New Year's Six, that's awesome. I'm excited for you guys to be able to cover that. Also, me being selfish, I think I want the Cotton Bowl. It's only 4 hours away. I could make that trip. Another Mizzou bowl game in DFW. We won't ask what happened last time that happened, but or what I did last time. But it's a fun experience. And I'm excited for you guys just to be able to cover
it. My ideal, I don't really care about the state or location that much. I just think the Orange Bowl would be really cool it would be Louisville most likely, but it could be against Florida State. It would be whatever the top ACC team that is not in the playoff is. that would be my ideal one, but that one's not likely. The Fiesta Bowl would be my second pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say the Cotton Bowl is one that's high up there. Just to kind of be in that environment would also be just something cool. I know it's been floated out Mizzou, Texas there as well. Wendell being a Texas fan.
Oh yeah.
As well would also be extremely exciting just to kind of be a part of that. Now, the one thing with Texas though, you don't know, and this is kind of with all bowl games, but you don't know who would sit out at that game, and so you just don't know who you get. With Mizzou, I find it interesting as well as to who will sit out because, I mean, the buy-in to this team, I feel like most of them would want to play that bowl game, and so I don't know who would sit out, but it is going to be an interesting kind of topic of discussion as we go on.
I heard for Texas. I just heard for Texas, Quinn Ewers might come back for another year. So maybe I don't know if I wonder if he would play in that hypothetical game. Sorry, Kenny.
Oh, I like that thought too, Brandon, because you look at guys like D-Rob, who's been around here forever. We mentioned that earlier. He has NFL aspirations. At the same time, he's given everything for 5 years to get to this moment. I don't know if he, sits out. You see guys like the last couple of years sit out just because it's a lower end bowl game. They want to get to the pros, but this means a lot more than what those did.
Yeah,
and I also go ahead.
Yeah, I do not think Darius Robinson would sit out of a bowl game. In particular, I just couldn't see him. I couldn't see Cody Schrader sitting out. The only guys I could possibly see, just depending on how their health and stuff stacks up, Tyron Hopper would be a name to watch. Possibly at the cornerback position, Chris Abrams-Drain or Ennis Rakestraw, just depending on how they're feeling and kind of their attitude with the bowl game or with the NFL draft and stuff like that. But I think a majority of the roster would decide to buy in and go for it.
Gotcha.
Definitely.
It's also senior day on Saturday. You're not a senior. We know that. You're a junior. Still got one more year. If the St. Louis Post-Dispatch brings back the student reporter, I think that's all yours, but we don't know that yet. But
we will lobby.
I have this right here. I want you to take one. I want you to go in there. I'm telling you to take one. Even though you're not a senior, because we don't know. You don't know if you're going to be on the beat next year. You got to get one. Just don't let them see you do it.
Yeah, we've talked about this as a thing about whether I should grab one or not. It has been a consensus that yes, I should, because like you said, you never know. Like, yes, if the Post-Dispatch brings back that campus correspondent, that is something I would be interested in. I think it's no secret. So we'll kind of see that, but I will definitely be grabbing one, making sure nobody's looking.
And for those who aren't on YouTube, the one is a white rock from the Block M. We didn't specify that, but it's a rock.
Yeah,
the one that you've spoken about stealing.
Yes.
This is a lost tape. This is not making it to air.
Brandon, you can be, if you don't get the PD thing or if they don't bring it back, you could be our correspondent. We can't pay you, but we can, if you're able to get credentials and write, we will publish it. Oh. And if not, we will advocate for you to be the PD one.
Much appreciated. May have to take that opportunity though. Like, can we write about the team again? It might be worth it.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, we can't pay you, but we would post your work somewhere. Mm-hmm. We would find a place. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, so Mizzou-Florida, crazy game. But the only other thing I meant to bring up was the that game in 2014 that they had, because I didn't realize what happened in this game where they had 42 points and 2 offensive touchdowns. That was crazy.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I looked at that yesterday. I actually didn't know about it. I mean, yes, I've been I grew up in Missouri, so I've been a Mizzou fan, but like obviously a casual Mizzou fan growing up, just not having the opportunity to watch it each week. So I did a little dive into that game yesterday, and I was like, whew, that was 4 different return touchdowns is quite the stat. So yeah. I don't think we'll see as much of that tomorrow or Saturday, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I just thought that was wild. I was like looking at that and I was like, what? Someone replied with the rest of it, or like with the play-by-play. How often that's happened in college football, I would love to know. But yeah, wild stuff. But yeah, Brandon, that's pretty much all we got. Thank you so much for coming on. Now you are on our recurring guest list, so whenever we ask, you have to come on. It's a requirement. That's part of being a guest on the Unwritten Rule. But best of luck with everything. Hope Mizzou gets a great bowl game, doesn't bottle it here in these last 2. Obviously, they take it one game at a time. They know the message. They got to win out if they want a chance at that NY6 Bowl. So an interesting one here against the Florida Gators, who themselves are still looking for bowl eligibility at 5-5. And everyone go read your preview, Brandon, at the Missourian. Anything you want to plug? I forgot to give. I give any guest that opportunity.
Not really. I mean, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter if you want. But just search up my name. I don't even know if I know my username completely.
Brandon, this is not good. If you're gonna come on there, you gotta have stuff to
I
plug.
know, gotta have something
to our massive audience.
Well, just check me out there. But honestly, just check out my work on the Missourian. Also, obviously, Wendell Shepard and Adam Ryerson. Those two do a great job as well. Just kind of on the beat. So check out their work. I know Wendell's got a good feature this week on Cody Schrader, actually. So definitely go check that out because obviously his story, and he kind of dives a little bit deeper into kind of his graduation night, actually, which is something that we've kind of heard about recently.
Oh, nice.
Ryerson there is talking a little bit about kind of the Florida pipeline that Mizzou has had with recruiting and transfers and stuff. So those two do phenomenal work as well. So that's my plug is go check them out. Go give them a follow.
Selfless.
They're great.
Selfless. Yeah, no, definitely go follow the Como Sports guys. They all do great work. Brandon included. It's at Brandon Haynes _ is your username, by the way. So now you know. But yeah, and appreciate you coming on, Brandon, and best of luck with the coverage the rest of the season.
Much appreciated. Thank you guys for having me.
Okay, we now welcome on a very, very special guest, recurring guest. He's been on this show before. Came on back when we were on the radio, and so we had to have him back on. And we're hoping to have him on actually a fair bit this season during basketball to get his perspective. Mizzou fans will know him. He had, wild shot against Lindenwood. A lot of people will remember a walk-on sensation. The creator of the Sternberg Scoop. It's the one, the only Mr. Ben Sternberg. Had to have him back on. Ben, long time no see. How you been?
Good, man. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Of course. Yeah, we wanted to have you on. We figured, this could be fun to have you come on. We know your relationship with Dennis Gates and still close with Mizzou basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You're out in LA right now with the two guys from last season's team, getting to see them a little bit. How's it been with them? Kind of accompanying them along. You said right before we hopped on that you're sort of like living vicariously through Kobe and Demoy right now.
Yes, sir. It's been cool. I mean, it's insane to see them playing at Crypto Arena.
Yeah.
And Demoy's
You
playing
can still
with
call it
LeBron.
Staples.
Yeah, Staple. I was talking to my cousin about that yesterday. I was like, we were at the game and I kept calling it Staples Center, and he was like, that's because he lives out here, so he was like, everybody calls it Staples Center. So,
yeah, it's still Staples.
So Staples, but it's cool. It's insane to see like Demoy on the same team as LeBron, and then obviously Kobe's with James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi, PG. It's they went from playing with me to Demoy to LeBron, which is like.
Yeah.
Huge stuff.
Downgrade, I would argue.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I'm just kidding. I can't talk about the GOAT.
Yes, the GOAT.
Talk about the GOAT that way.
Okay, well, starting off, you're just looking at who's left from the guys you played with at Mizzou. First one I want to start with is Shawn East, and he's been playing really well through the first 3 games. And you talked with us last time we had you on. He's like we didn't know the personality he had. We didn't know he had almost like it sounds like a Southern accent sometimes when he talks. And how have you kind of seen him just come out of his shell? Because to us, he just always seemed very reserved.
Well, he ever since last year, he's put in so much work. I think he was arguably the hardest worker we had on the team last year. He was always the first one at the gym and the last one to leave. And, this is not a surprise, the numbers he's been putting up. It's just reps for him. And, the stuff he does, which is crazy, is, while he's working out, he's doing the same things in game that he's doing in his workout. So it's like, I know, I see it with my own eyes. So, I know the spin move float. It's good. And he's gotten a lot stronger too. But I think he's also becomes a great leader this year. Obviously last year he was kind of learning the culture from the Cleveland State guys that we had, but this year, he's taking it super serious. And I think that it's going to be one of the reasons that this Mizzou team this year is successful.
And obviously they just beat SIUE, but before that, I mean, they were coming off a loss against Memphis. It was kind of a tough loss. It was a game I think everybody kind of was hoping to win. I'm kind of curious, just in general, what was kind of the message from Dennis, or was it different after every loss, maybe how he would approach it, or what was it the the approach he had after Mizzou would lose a game last year.
Well, I mean, obviously I wasn't in that locker room, but I know that, he's telling them it's only the second game. It was only the second game of the season. It's a completely new team. So they're just starting to learn each other. They got a lot of talent. They got a lot of good players, a lot of good people on that team. And I think Coach Gates is kind of just making sure they're all, together, building that culture. It's not easy. I mean, it's easy to say that last year's team is comparable to this year's team, but they're two completely different teams. So I think the expectations, that people have, I don't think, this team is their own team. Like I said, I feel like this team is amazing. And I feel like there's no need to worry. Obviously I'm on Twitter and I wish I could respond to everybody saying, just wait, just let them play. You know what I'm saying? But I think they're gonna they're 2-1 right now, and I believe they definitely could have beat Memphis if it's in like 3 games. Let's say it's in like 3 games, 4 games, they're gonna beat them in my opinion. So we just got to see that culture come together. We got to see the guys play together, and they'll be good. But nobody should be worried right now.
Yeah, I think it's tough because they have the expectations of what you guys did last year with going to the tournament, and that was their first trip back in such a long time, and
right.
and it's natural, and people obviously love Dennis, and will naturally kind of have the expectations for him to do well. I kind of want your take on this a little bit. I know, there's really good players all over college basketball, and I know kind of from an outside perspective, last season's start to the year was maybe seen as a little bit easier, and like this year, kind of as the narrative, they ramped up the schedule a little bit. For you, like when you look at that, is that kind of a natural thing? Or are you kind of in favor of them, playing a little bit more difficult games out of the gate, like we see against Memphis? They got Minnesota here on Thursday night. Like, what's your take on that, making the schedule a little bit tougher in year 2?
Yeah, I mean, I like that, and I know the guys like that too. Obviously, I'm not gonna say there's any bad teams or mediocre teams because every team's good in their own way. But I think that playing the highest level of competition is what everybody wants. I feel like, especially, I talk to Noah and Nick every single day. They love playing against the best teams because, down the line that's gonna help them. Obviously, I mean, we remember last year when we were going out. We were, I think it was 9-0, and then we played Kansas, and then we got that warm welcome, to like we're playing against high level competition. I think that playing teams like that like earlier in the year is gonna help them for sure. Which, I mean, in my opinion, like I think this might be a little bit of a hot take, but our Kansas game last year I think was our most important game of the whole season because we realized that I think we weren't like not humble, but it definitely humbled us, seeing that this is a national championship contending team. And this is what we need to do to, beat them next time. So, and obviously I think that it helped us pretty well. I think we did pretty good last year. So playing against teams of in the Big Ten or the American Conference early in the season, I think not only will help them, but I think the guys want to do it too, for sure.
Yeah.
You talked about building that culture as well. When you look at this team compared to last year, you said new guys, new faces. This year's a lot younger too. I mean, there's a lot more freshmen than when you were on the team. How do you kind of just get those young guys to just build the culture early, get them, I mean, they're coming from high school basketball. It's a different world, as you would know. How do you get them just on board that fast?
Well, I mean, no bias. I think we have the best coach in the country who's going to help them out with that stuff. He appointed Nick, Noah, Mabor, East, and then he actually gave young Ant a captain role. So the captains, like his last year, we take it really serious. We take that culture really, really serious. And I think Coach Gates obviously preaches that to the guys, but they have great leaders on their team right now. So they just got to trust their vets and put the work in, and not only in the on the court, but definitely in the class too, because Coach wants us all to be good people around campus, which is why he's the best coach in the country.
I liked what you said there about trusting the vets too, because I think Ant might have made tip the ball out of bounds, and John Tonje and Tamar Bates, I know guys you didn't play with, but they're coming up right to him after, and I know that would have been like a role for you guys as those captains and those veteran roles. And I mean, is when you have Ant as a captain too, does that like really just get the freshmen going as well? You have that really young guy that's going to circle those guys around.
Yeah, for sure. And he's a good kid too. He knows the game. He's really skilled, and I think he's gonna be really, really good. But I think it's also showing the recruits that, hey, if you're vocal in the summer and you come in here, you could get a captain spot. So like, coach is not just gonna give a captain spot out. And for last year, we all had to work for it. Even the guys from Cleveland State, he didn't just tell us that we're gonna be captains. We had to, put the work in. We had to talk about culture. We had to build those relationships. So I think personally it was really cool that he gave Ant a captain spot, but even though he's a captain, he still is gonna have to talk to Nick. He's still gonna have to talk to Noah. He's still gonna have to learn because those guys are experienced and they've been with Coach Gates for a year. So once he learns the culture, and then next year, I think he could definitely have a breakout year next year, especially with the recruiting class they have coming in this year. The sky's the limit for them, but. Coach Gates really, really takes that captain stuff serious. So, and that's why we're good. We're gonna be good every year, in my opinion.
Right. And you obviously, I know you even said earlier you still talk to Nick and your curly brother Noah every day.
Every day.
Have they kind of maybe said, like, they told you anything about like what they think of the freshman class right now? I mean, have you heard good things about not just Ant, obviously, who you just really uh, shown a good light on, but also Trent Pierce and Jordan Butler? I mean, what have you heard
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, they say they're in the gym all the time, but it's about like who they are as people. Coach Gates is not just gonna recruit a 5-star, 4-star guy because he's a 5-star, 4-star. Coach is gonna recruit them because of their personality, and he's gonna see if he can insert them into our culture. Because I know I say in literally every answer, but I promise you guys, like culture is the reason like we're good. Like culture is the reason because we might at Cleveland State. I'll even tell you like. We were not the best team, most talented team at Cleveland State. We were the best team because we are of our culture and the way we played and the way we were together. And coach is always talking about togetherness. But yeah, I mean, Jordan Butler, obviously 7 feet, can shoot. His brother's in the NBA, so that's gotta show you guys that he's got potential. Trent Pierce, I could definitely see him, being one of the best players in college, and obviously, Ant, especially in this culture and where he's at. They're definitely going to be good down the line, but I think they can make impacts this year as well.
Definitely. And I know, among those freshmen, there's still a good amount of guys that on this team, but a bunch of newcomers too. And I know you're doing your own thing too, but I'm sure you try and watch every game you can and just, kind of from an outside perspective on some of those new guys and just in this last game, they came out and beat SIUE. What just observations were you making in terms of how this team plays and how some of these newcomers are doing too? Guys like John Tonje, Tamar Bates, kind of ran over, not in the side yet, but what's been your impression on just how they've seemed to be, fitting in, and then your impression from that SIUE game?
Right. I was watching the SIU game, and I definitely saw them having more fun. I think that they kind of maybe put a little bit of pressure on themselves, a little bit too much pressure, because I know those guys. I know pretty much I do know all the guys, from last year, reaching out to them. They reach out to me. And obviously, like, Caleb Grill is an unbelievable player, but I saw him smiling last game. Tonje was smiling, having fun. Tamar Bates, you know what I'm saying? So if they get to that every game and just having fun, being themselves, not worrying about the future or the past, I think that the sky's the limit. But I'm really excited to see what this Minnesota game tonight looks like.
Peyton brought it up earlier, talked about your curly-haired brother, and last time you're on here, he was with us too, and you guys are having some fun. And I got to ask, looking, up and down his start, everyone's, beating the rust off, getting ready, and then he just bangs threes in this last game against SIU. He gets hot. And I remember in one of your Sternberg scoops, Phil Pressey, you asked him who has the best 3-point shot, and it was Noah Carter. I mean, how does he get hot? And I mean, does he just feel himself when he gets going there?
Yeah. He's he put so much work in the summer, and last year I think he definitely showed what he could do, but this year I think being one of the top guys, if not the top guy, he's really gonna hit those threes. And Noah's got that personality. Everybody loves CB, so He's going to go out there, have fun. He's going to be a leader. But he put a lot of work in the summer, as did all the guys. But I know Noah. Noah's one of my best friends in the whole world. So I know the work he put in, and what he does this year is definitely going to be deserving for him.
And I know, obviously, you've moved on from Mizzou. Obviously, you graduated.
Mhm.
You're out and about now. I'm sure everybody wants to know, because you did become kind of like a cult hero at Mizzou.
Mhm.
What are you up to now? What's
Yeah,
kind of going on in your world?
yeah. So I'm out in LA right now. But I've been filming my Sternberg scoops. I've been working on a lot of good stuff. I've been vlogging. I took a little bit of time off, just for my mental. And my mom, I've been so consumed by basketball, my whole life. I never really had a chance to, enjoy my family in the summer. I never really had a chance to, do things as kind of like a regular person. And, doing this for the past like 4 months, it's been so good for me. And I'm just excited to get the Sternberg scoops and all the videos out to you guys. But, that's really what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, that's great, dude. Like we know the Mizzou fans will tune in. Like, you had
For sure.
everybody hyped last year. And
Mhm.
by the way, on Noah Carter, he's welcome back on anytime he wants to join you. We got to
Listen,
get him
man,
back
all you
on.
gotta
Maybe after
say
the
is the
year.
word. All you gotta say is the word. He'll get on for sure.
Heck yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it's just that's super exciting with the
Mhm.
opportunities for you and stuff too. And
Appreciate it.
I do want to ask, we're making an award. We want to make an award this year for the men's basketball team. We're calling it the Soldier Benny Walk-On of the Year Award. We're going to give it out to whoever the best walk-on is. So as we keep having you on,
Okay.
keep a lookout as who's making those EGB plays on the sidelines. I
Ooh,
know
I like the
Jackson's been
EGB.
there. Yeah, have you
Yes, sir.
noticed anyone? Has anyone flashed out to you that's could be in an early leader for that award?
I think they're getting their feet wet, but I want to give a shout out to Coach Parentfoot. He's a GA right now, but he's on the bench and he's gonna go. He's been going crazy. So I want you guys to
Okay.
keep an eye out for Parentfoot. So I think Coach Foot could be a part of this too, because the
Okay.
energy
We could
he's
throw him
gonna
in.
bring is actually, it's funny because at Cleveland State, he was sitting behind the bench last year, but at Cleveland State he was sitting by me, and there was a video of him, and then they named him the clipboard guy. It was when we were at Wright State, I think,
Yeah.
and it actually blew up because he was going so crazy on the sideline. It got like 200,000 views. So I think Coach P is gonna bring the juice this year, and he's gonna help not only the walk-ons, but he's gonna help the whole team. So shout out Coach P.
That's awesome. And you're getting energy going, and we know Sternberg Scoop. Peyton brought it up. You talked about it there. You're out there with your family now. When you get back home and you get this, off the ground, you keep moving with it and make your videos as well. We're going to see merchandise. I know you
Oh
had some
yeah,
pretty cool
oh yeah,
logos during the season. We might need some hoodies. It's getting
for
getting
sure.
cold out.
For sure, I've been talking with my boy Sam Connor, who's from where I'm from, and we've been talking about merch. So it's gonna be cool. It's not just gonna be like regular. It's gonna be a real brand. I've been working on that because I don't know if you guys know, but I really love fashion too.
Yeah.
I've always loved fashion since probably like high school. So I really wanted to. I felt like now was the best time, especially with the Sternberg Scoop, and I feel like there's so much stuff I could do with just Benny Bucket, Sternberg Scoop, and the logos and stuff like that. So I'll have all that out to you guys soon, and I'll send you guys stuff for sure.
Sweet.
Yes, sir.
I doubt this has happened in LA, but has anyone come up to you about the Lindenwood shot and you lost them money?
No, actually, but it was a year ago yesterday, maybe, and
I think so. Yeah.
Yep. People were tweeting at me about it, and it's funny enough I can talk about it now, but
Yeah.
People 2 days ago, was it 2 days ago when they played SIUE maybe? It was a spread.
Yeah.
It was a spread, and I can't remember I don't think it was covered, but people were like tagging me. They're like, "Where's Soldier Benny at for this?"
Backdoor cover. Yeah.
So I was like,
man,
"Man, listen, put me on the court. I'm hitting it."
That'll be a play if someone does that this year as a walk-on. That'll elevate them in the rankings. That'll jump them up.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, so we'll make an award. I'll have a graphic and stuff, and we'll keep
Let's
like
do it.
a tally, and we'll put Coach Foot on there as well. So that's
Let's do it.
That's a good insight.
Let's do it.
But yeah, Benny, I think for now, any quick predictions for what you think they might see? Minnesota tonight on the road. First road game of the year. It's another it's Power 5 program.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it'll be a good environment for them. It's obviously a Big Ten school, so it's not going to be a very easy game. But they got a good team. I believe in my guys, man. Those are still my guys. I definitely believe in a win. I think we're going to get a win tonight. I think Nick's going to have a really good game tonight too. East is going to have a good game. And I think is Vanover playing tonight? I think Vanover.
Yes, he's back. He's back. Yeah. He was on the poster.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was. I think Vanover will make an impact today. Noah's gonna. I think Noah's gonna go off today. My curly brother. Maybe that's just
okay. Noah, Nick, yeah, the two of the guys you played with, Noah, Nick, and Connor. All right.
I think Grill's gonna hit some shots tonight too, for sure.
Okay.
31.
All right.
Maybe that's biased too, because he's 31. But.
All right, well, we'll look out for it. Peyton and I are going to be at the game. We're both up in Minnesota this weekend, so we'll be there. Yeah. We'll have some tweets. But, yeah, I mean, I think that's all we got for this week, dude. But, yeah, we definitely want to keep this going. We'll have you back on, whenever you want. We figured maybe on Fridays for this show you come on, we could just talk hoops like we're doing.
Let's do it, man. Appreciate y'all for having me.
Heck, yeah. Any quick things you want to plug right before we set you off?
Yeah, I mean, my Sternberg scoops are coming soon, man. I'm really excited to get them to you, but I just want to let y'all know the Sternberg scoop it's not just going to be basketball players. It's going to be like actors. It's going to be anybody. It's not just, but we're going to involve basketball in it. So it's a really cool concept. And one of my first guests, do you guys know who Michi Terry is, bald fam, who locked up LaMelo in high school?
I don't. You send us his stuff. We'll check it out.
Yeah, for sure. Ball fam. I'll send you guys his stuff. He's gonna be one of my first. He'll be one of my first shows. So it'll be cool, man. Have y'all seen Entourage before? The show Entourage?
No, I've heard of it.
No, I haven't. But
y'all gotta watch it. Y'all gotta watch it.
There you go. We got a TV recommendation.
Yes,
we get everything from Soldier Benny.
For sure.
I've heard of that. That's been around.
Oh, I've seen this guy before. I just looked him up. I've seen this guy before.
Yeah.
He's balding. Like he has a. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's from Cleveland. He's from Cleveland. He's one of my best friends, so he'll be on one of the first episodes. But I'm excited to get it out to you guys, man.
Hell yeah! All right, well, and then we'll start Entourage. I guess that'll be my next TV show.
I'm telling you. Guys.
Have you seen Barry, Ben? The show Barry on HBO. Watch that. Watch that. Great show.
Maybe we should give some recommendations to the people in the show too. Yeah, we got a lot to do for sure.
Little TV segment.
Yeah.
Little TV segment for sure.
Benny's gonna carry this show. Benny's taking us to another world. We're going up. All right. Well, Ben, thank you so much. We appreciate you having you on. We'll talk again soon.
All right, man. Appreciate y'all. Have a good day.
Okay, quick hits time. We're doing this at the end of the show now. Brief note. But Kenneth, you start us off. Your jersey of the week.
Before I do jersey of the week, quick note about Burlsworth Trophy. Didn't know the date earlier when we were talking about it, but it's going to be announced December 4th at 7 p.m. Central Time at Crystal Bridges Museum in Bentonville, Arkansas. What is Bentonville, Arkansas the home to?
Walmart.
There you go. My jersey of the week goes to C.Y. Young.
Go ahead. Sorry, I had another note on Bentonville, but that's enough. Enough talking about Bentonville. Sorry.
Enough about Arkansas. That's for next week. Jersey of the week goes to C.Y. Young. This was announced on Twitter on Sunday that his alma mater, Georgia Southern, is retiring his jersey. Really cool thing to see. It was a fun video too. So if you go on Mizzou basketball's social media pages, they posted it. You see him on the phone, and he's just really excited about it. Fun thing to see for him.
Yeah, it was cool. The Antlers made like a sign for him that said "Congratulations, CY," and I think he hadn't found out about it until literally minutes before he saw that sign. So he went out and he high-fived the guys. Maybe took a photo with the people who made it. But good. That's classic Antlers. They know the deep cut stuff. But yeah, good for CY. Go Eagles.
Unfortunately, the article doesn't even say what number he was. I'm on the Columbia Missourian. I don't even know what number he wore it. I'll dig into that right now.
All right, yeah, research. If there's one thing Kenny can do, it's mid-show research.
Yeah, no kidding. My jersey of the week, it's not Mizzou related, but I got one of my MLB preseason picks right. Corbin Carroll was the NL Rookie of the Year. Gunnar Henderson was AL Rookie of the Year, which was not my pick. I believe I picked Logan O'Hop for
I'll pull him up.
for the Angels. So that didn't hit, but Corbin Carroll, he got me one.
I forgot all about those. Hang on, I have all of them. Are
Yeah,
they
I
all
picked
done?
Jeffrey Springs, yeah, they are. Or the MVPs
Okay.
haven't been announced, but
All right. Who won Cy Youngs?
Blake Snell and Garrett Cole.
No one picked them.
Yeah,
Did you say Gunnar Henderson was AL
Gunnar
Rookie of the Year?
Henderson did win Rookie of the Year. Did Kenny get that right?
Congratulations to Kenny. Kenny picked Gunnar Henderson. Good job, Kenny. And then that's all we had. I think we just have MVP, but you said that hadn't gotten announced yet. Oh, and
Yeah,
shout
he
out to
didn't
Nash Walker. Nash Walker, friend of the show. He also picked Corbin. He picked Corbin Carroll and Gunnar Henderson. He got them both right.
That's why he's working in baseball, and we're sitting right here.
There you go. Yeah, shout out Nash, friend of the show.
Kenny, did you find that? Did you find the number yet?
No, I think it might be 14. There's like no photos of him, and the one that looks like it is 14, but it's kind of blurry.
I don't know how many
number.
people were.
Keep
taking
going.
photos.
You're not allowed to talk
Georgia
again until you
Southern.
figure it out.
Until I
Georgia
find it.
Southern basketball
find
back
it.
then. Knowlton,
Yeah.
your jersey.
Oh
of the
yeah,
week.
sorry, my turn. My jersey of the week, also not Mizzou related. I mean, I know we're trying to make most of them Mizzou related, but sometimes there's just stories that are too funny to ignore. My jersey of the week goes to Mr. Draymond Green, who before a point was even scored in the Golden State Warriors and Minnesota Timberwolves game in the NBA in-season tournament, basically attempted to strangle Rudy Gobert. I'm not necessarily trying to award Draymond for his behavior, but more just putting him as the jersey as a excuse to talk about it. Whatever you feel about Rudy Gobert, Draymond is wild. Someone made a compilation. It had some song to it. I forget what it was, but it was just about him. It was just a compilation of him and all his like dirty plays he's done over his career. Again, this was 2 minutes
3
into the
hours
game.
long?
No, it is like 5 or 7 minutes. It is pretty long. But this was 2 minutes into the game. But you know what? This is just what the in-season tournament brings out of guys. I mean, high stakes, everything's on the line. You know, it's this new thing. You want to do whatever you can to win it. And Draymond's he's just out there scrapping. I'm kidding. This was ridiculous. And he got suspended 5 games, I believe.
Really harsh punishment there, Mr. Silver. 5 games. Goodness.
Bring David
How
Stern
will
back.
he cope? Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
There's also like a thing. I don't know if this was fake, but there was something that they posted, like he did like a meditation thing once, and they put like people were quote tweeting with that photo. And I love the NBA, but some people
Kenny,
are probably
have you found
happy.
it
There are
yet?
a lot of Gobert haters. Yeah, Kenny, have you found it yet? He said he can't.
14.
14.
There we go.
14. That's the
14 for
number
CY.
he wore. He wore it in high school as well. But the jersey I saw, like it was very blurry, and I had to zoom in, and I finally pieced it together that it was
Enhanced.
14.
Good
Enhanced.
sleuthing. Good
There you go,
sleuthing.
CY Young. Also, when you search, it's hard to search CY Young's name because you get all the Cy Young Award articles as well because it was
Look up
announced
Carlson Young.
yesterday. I got it through CY is what people were putting in headlines. So that's going to do it for jerseys. We're looking at the unwritten rules. Fantastic 4 picks now. Peyton, of course, still in the lead at 24-13-3. I'm in second place at 19-18-3. And Jack, you are in third, one behind me at 18-19-3.
Third also
We're gonna
means
start-
last.
Can I start
third
picking?
winner.
Can I start picking unders in this instead?
Nope.
No, that's not how that works. Here we go. We did an over under once, but we're doing
did.
just the spreads right now. So Steelers
Dolphins,
at
Bills.
Browns. The Browns are still favored by a point, even with Deshaun Watson out for the season. Jack, you're taking the Browns, while myself and Peyton are taking the Steelers. Jack, plead your case.
Yeah, bro. Kenny, I'm surprised you're not all in on the PJ Walker hype train. He's their starting quarterback now.
That's
after
because
Deshaun got
Dorian
hurt.
Thompson Robinson is
Is it not
starting.
Walker?
Yeah.
What happened to PJ Walker?
He's not the
What did
starter.
I miss?
He's not the starter.
Did they?
He's a
Why
guy
did I
you
see a-
start. He's a guy you
Why did I
start
see a
when you
Schefter-
need
a
a spot
Schefter tweet?
start. When you have
What?
a 5th rounder that you can develop, that's who you're going to
Why-
go with.
why did I see a Schefter tweet that said it was PJ Walker? This
You
changes
didn't.
everything.
It's Dorian Thompson Robinson.
I don't know what I saw. All right, fake news, I guess. I'm still rocking with the Browns. That negates my point I was going to make about Kenny. But you know what? This is a good defense, and it's good karma. Deshaun Watson is a bad person, and now he's out of the picture, and they can, have a nice up-and-comer like DTR. And they have a really good defense. I know the Steelers have been a surprisingly good team. I wouldn't be all that shocked if they win, but you know what? Give me my Browns. They're going to win this for PJ Walker and for me, to prove me right in the pick after I was made a fool by some fake news.
Right. Yeah, no, the Steelers are going to win just because they find ways to win. It'll be tough for them to score points. This will be a bit of a rock fight, but I'll still take the Steelers here.
Moving on to the second game, Peyton's Bears going into Detroit to face the Lions. The Lions are favored by 7.5 points. Clean sweep here. We're all taking the Lions.
Yeah, I'm taking the Lions here, but keep an eye out for Dan Campbell for that Texas A&M job. Because people think that's going to happen.
Yeah, the Lions are really good, and I don't do that, Dan Campbell. What Peyton said.
It's not good.
All right.
I swear to God, Schefter tweeted this. I'm trying to find it.
Knowlton, Dorian Thompson Robinson is starting.
I know he's starting. Like, I see that now, but move on. Sorry.
All right, third game on the docket. The Jets are going into Buffalo this week. The Bills are favored by 7 points, but no Ken Dorsey. The Bills OC was fired this past week, but we got a Bills clean sweep, and we like to talk about it. Coach is getting fired, gets the guys rallied up, gets them fired up, and they're going to rally together for a win. We got the Bills by 7 or more points, more than 7 points.
I mean, yeah, are we thinking playoffs for the Bills? Do you guys think they'll make the playoffs at 5-5?
I still think they'll be fine. They're way too talented. I know people were posting Ken Dorsey's numbers, comparing him and Dable, and they were good. I will say this though, it doesn't tell the whole story. If you watch the Bills, I've watched a fair number of Bills games. Dorsey's play calling is goofy. It wasn't great. I'm not saying he deserved to be fired. He was definitely scapegoated, but I think the Bills legitimately did upgrade at OC.
Yeah, I don't know. I just I like the Bills too. They've been coasting through games. I picked this mostly because I don't think the Jets have scored a touchdown in 7 quarters or something. It's been a long time. So they stink. But the Bills, they have to play the Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, Patriots, Dolphins, and Eagles to end the season. That's a tough schedule. That's all I'm saying. And if you told me they were 5-5 at this point, I'd be pretty shocked. But I still got them.
All right, last game on the docket. Vikings going into Denver to face the Broncos. Both teams playing winning football. If you probably wouldn't have expected that a couple weeks ago, the Broncos are riding a 3-game winning streak. Vikings still look like they have playoff aspirations with Josh Dobbs at the helm. And that's where I'm going there. I'm going to take Vikings plus 2.5, but you guys are taking the Broncos. Why is that?
The rumors of Sean Payton's demise were greatly exaggerated. He has this team playing winning football again. Russ actually does not look too terrible right now. And this Josh Dobbs thing, it has to end at some point. I mean, come on.
I am also enjoying the Josh Dobbs Linsanity run. It's very fun. The Vikings are red hot. This is in Mile High. I think Sean Payton saw those Caleb Williams interceptions against Notre Dame and said, I don't want to tank anymore. Get your shit together, Russ. And he has, like Payton said, Broncos country. Let's ride. Give me
Only thing I have to add to that is, can you take me higher to a place where blind men, parentheses, Jack and Payton, see? Can you take me higher to a place with golden streets? Creed over the Broncos plus 2.5.
Oh, they have been playing Creed, the Vikings. No.
Even with Kirk Cousins gone, they're still Creed guys. All right,
Kenny, if the Vikings win, I'll shave my. I'm kidding. You know how people have been shaving their eyebrows?
You got to do it.
Peyton, I think we should do it if the Vikings win this game. Let's put everything in the Broncos.
I'm not doing it.
I'm kidding. I'm not doing that. Next segment, Mr. East.
I like no cap, and he's the main bird.
Shawn East, main bird of the week. We talked about Shawn East, Ben Sternberg. Kenny.
I talked about this earlier, but you got it wrong. I'm the one with the Kansas.
Yeah, my bad.
Ball for main bird of the week. Not Peyton. And the reason I'm doing that is because Jayden Quaintance announced his commitment, signed with Kentucky on Tuesday, same day that Kentucky lost to Kansas men's basketball 89-84, one of these early season showdowns. And it kind of sucks because Mizzou beat SIUE. That's a win. Jayden Quaintance signs with a team that lost. It sucks for you, man.
Yeah, boy, pick your poison here in this matchup. This is probably the second least likable matchup for me, behind only Kansas and Arkansas in the tournament last year. I wish neither of them won, personally.
Yeah, this game, like, Kentucky may have lost it, and I like where you're going with that, Kenny. They looked really good in this game, especially for how young they are.
Not good enough.
Yeah, well, but I only think that makes Kansas seem even better because Kentucky was up by 16 at one point in this game. I don't know. I'm putting stock into both of these teams. I think both of these teams are really good for kind of different reasons. But you know what? Yeah, credit to Kansas for pulling one over on Quaintance. Fair enough. Peyton.
My main bird of the week, we touched on it earlier. Louisville football for being 9-1 and still being ranked number 10 behind your number 9, 8-2 Tigers of Missouri. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to make sure we got the CFP rankings in somewhere. I was very shocked by this ranking. I thought Mizzou would be behind both Oregon State and Louisville. They hopped them both. I mean, the way you look at the CFP, it really feels like there's number 1, it's Georgia, and then 2 through 8 are like another really good tier teams, and then after that it gets hazy, and the committee thinks that Mizzou is the best team of that third tier.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty shocked by this too, but I mean, there is such a thing. Like, I know among our friend group, we do our own rankings every week, and like, I'm a believer in quality wins and bad quality wins. Like, a team, there is such thing as a bad win, and Louisville's you had that against Virginia and a really ugly loss to Kentucky. So, like, while I was shocked because I figured they'd keep all the one-loss team, or not. What did I say? Kentucky? I meant
Pitt.
I don't know why I said Kentucky. Sorry, they played Kentucky in last week
of the year.
Pitt is what I meant. Had a loss to a bad Pitt team. Like, yeah, I think it kind of makes sense if you really think about it. But I did think they would keep all the one-loss teams at least above Mizzou. But I do think, looking at the rest of the two-loss teams' resumes, Mizzou is the best two-loss team in the country. I think I'm confident in standing on business and saying that. We'll get to that in a second because I've got a main bird of the week. I don't really have a connection to birds, but I wanted to give him a shout out. My main bird of the week is Mizzou tight end Shawn Hendershot.
Not even trying.
I'm not trying. I couldn't find anything else Mizzou related. I was trying my best. So I'm going to shout out Shawn because he retweeted the Tennessee video. So thank you for that, Shawn. We appreciate you. Any players that like our stuff is always cool. And yeah, go tell Brett Norfleet that we want him on the podcast. You can come on too.
Yeah,
together.
He's not listening, but
tight end you
guys can come on. Tight end you. Best thing you learned, Peyton.
Yeah, best thing I learned this week. We weren't going to go the whole show without talking about this. We stand on business, Josh. It is lighting Twitter on fire. Sorry, X, formerly known as Twitter, on fire. Eli Drinkwitz, I mean, we kind of already talked about how that handshake was very brisk between him and Heupel after the game, and deservedly so. Turns out, Drink said, we stand on business, Josh, to Josh Heupel. And I know people on the outside that don't know the whole story are going to think this is incredibly cringe that Drink just said that and then took off like pretty much immediately. Josh Heupel was asked about it in a presser today, and he said he didn't even catch what Drinkwitz said to him. Personally, after the crap Heupel pulled with Tennessee last year, I thought that that touchdown to make it 66-24 was a bit crazy. And then he tried to settle for that field goal at the end to make it look a little better. What comes around goes around. That's basically my thoughts on it. I have no problem with Drink letting his petty side out there.
Like I said in our recap, karma's a bitch. It happens. I mean, things are going to come around and get you. And it's like, people like saying like, oh, if you don't want them to score, then play better defense at the end.
Yeah.
Tennessee game last year. Yeah, I mean, there's also the unwritten rule, gamesmanship. Like we talk about this, it's the name of the show. It might not bother some fans that Tennessee's running up the score, but it bothers the coach, bothers staff, bothers the name of the game, and kind of just sucks that Tennessee fans that they were on the receiving end for the first time.
I will say, like, I don't have a problem really with Tennessee scoring at the end. Like, yes, it's annoying from a fan's perspective, and yes, it makes you mad. But Tennessee had the thing they wanted to do. Heupel had that big apology to Drinkwitz post game after that, or whatever it was. But man, if you do that, you got to be prepared for it to be paid back.
If you give it, you got to take it.
Yeah, that's just how I always feel in these situations. That's like, if in the name of our show, the unwritten rule in baseball, if you're gonna bat flip, I don't care. That's fine. Just be prepared. You might get hit on the very next at bat.
Yeah, I mean, it was clear they were leaning into the petty side. I mean, Mizzou tweeted that mini movie out, I think just yesterday or 2 days ago, recapping the week, and that was Kenny and I were texting about it. It gave us chills. Like, it was so cool. They flashed back to that game. Really embraced the pettiness as well. Like, showed Drink on the sidelines. Flashback to Heupel calling the timeout to run the touchdown, and flash forward back to Drink doing the same thing with icing the kicker. Maybe make your field goal, man. But yeah, it was just great. I loved it. You can call it cringe all you want. Of course, Tennessee fans are going to do that. I would expect nothing less. They're defending their team. But Peyton, good job coming to Mizzou's defenses. I know you were on the Twitter sphere. This is like a little insight into the dynamic of the show. Kenny and Peyton do a lot of the social mediaing, and Peyton on his own account does a good job of representing Mizzou when people are kind of coming for him in situations like this. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but
I just think it's a little silly to not expect Drink to be a little petty after what had happened the last 2 years with Tennessee. And credit to Tennessee, because they put up 60 points in back-to-back meetings, but when you have your backup quarterback in the game last year and you call a timeout with a minute left so that you can make it 66-24 instead of 59-24, you have to expect something like this. I mean, Mizzou beat the brakes off them, as Drinkwitz put it. Mizzou's defense kicked their ass after getting embarrassed the year before. Shit happens, man.
And Drinkwitz has done a lot better with the whole pettiness stuff. I mean, last 2 years he's learned a lot. You look at the Boston College game a couple years ago, cutting back on saying the great state of Massachusetts, and just kind of moving on, not getting saying things that can get him in trouble, and even apologizing for actions on Georgia, just getting frustrated, which any coach would have done. So I mean, he's just done a lot to take a step back and just be the guy he wants to be and not really show it. But that was a perfect time to really show that he can show that kind of side. Especially you look back, one of the most important times is against Florida 2 years ago. That was a big game there, and that's what I like to think about.
That was the Darth Vader game, right?
Darth Vader game.
May the Force be with you.
We may be seeing some Dan Mullen soon. Just FYI, he may be back on the sidelines in the SEC soon.
Oh, what is he going to be? Dan Campbell's OC? Oh no, he's going to
Mississippi
Sorry,
State.
He'll face off. Yeah. That's right. Kenny, Drinkwitz was being your voice is in the background. He was being a dog.
Yeah, I don't know what their deal is. My second thing is, I'm glad that I didn't even think about this when we were talking about the recap. I don't think a lot of people are even thinking about it. But Mizzou didn't storm the field and rush the field, and I really liked that. It was a big win over Tennessee. You weren't favored to win. They were just one spot ahead of you, and maybe if Mizzou was in a different spot in the season, yeah, you're definitely going to rush it. You wouldn't be ranked where you were if this was a different spot of the season. But it's good to just know where Mizzou football is this year. And I the one thing I will say is I don't like the overrated chants. I think those are really stupid.
Yeah.
And it makes your own team look bad by saying that. You're making your own guys look like they're not good enough to beat that team. And that's the one thing I'll point out. Mizzou fans did that after the Auburn basketball game a couple years ago, and Mizzou almost beat the number one team in the nation. And that was ridiculous. I don't like that at all.
I've never heard that take on the overrated chant. That's fair.
The overrated chant, when you need that win to look good for your resume, I thought that was quite silly. It was probably the student section. not sure why we're chanting overrated at Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Best thing you learned, Kenny.
Best thing I learned, this will be a quick one, but Arkansas 4-star wide receiver commit Ashton Bethel-Roman will visit Missouri this weekend for the Tigers' last home game against Florida. It's pretty cool thing to see. We talked about the rage recruiting. Brandon brought it up when he was on here a little while ago, talking about Flipmas, and another guy that the Tigers look to be going after, especially missing out on Ryan Wingo.
Yeah.
Keep rating the little brothers of the conference, man. Arkansas is a program in disarray that's already below Mizzou. You should be beating out that program for some of these guys.
Yeah. Speaking of little brothers, Peyton, my best thing I learned this week, I'm talking about Domonique Johnson Jr., who is the little brother of Marquise Johnson, Mizzou's pretty talented freshman wide receiver. I just thought this was kind of fun on X. Domonique Johnson tweeted, recap of my weekend, #MIZ, with a bunch of just nice photos. He's with his brother. He got to go see him play. Of course, the Mizzou fans were in the replies that Domonique's going to be next up, future Tiger. I'm not sure how old Domonique Johnson Jr. is, but obviously he looks like quite young in those photos. But I think this is just always nice to have the family connection. And I also was learning when I was just like looking this up. I didn't know this. Marquise Johnson, he picked Mizzou. He only visited for like a couple of hours, and then he was like, I want to go here. Didn't take any other visits. Didn't look anywhere else. His dad kind of criticized that decision, and then, was like, that's really what he wanted to do, and he's bought in, and it's paid off for him. I learned that from a feature by Wendell Shepard from the Columbia Missourian. So everyone go read that. But yeah, kind of cool thing about Marquise, and this just felt like a recruit visit post with the caption to it, and it's just funny because it's just the little brother of one of the players. But who knows? Could be down the road. Domonique Johnson Jr. might be a name to watch.
If he's even half as fast as Marquise, we might be seeing Jacob Peeler tweet out an NWO GIF pretty soon.
Yeah.
People forget too that Marquise's dad played at Mizzou in the 2000s. He was a cornerback. So Domonique Johnson, I don't know if he's the senior now, if that's his title, but he was there. He was a Tiger, and that really played into the decision a bit.
Yeah, hometown. So I just thought that was fun. But Mizzou, getting all the love on the football team right now. We'll see how it goes for Florida. But that'll do it here for us for the Unwritten Rule. We'll hop on after that Florida game. We'll have a recap for you guys. And hopefully what is the Tigers' 9th, if you can believe it, 9th win of the season. Hopefully. Got to take care of business. Still got something to prove. Mizzou football does here this season. But yeah, we'll be back. We'll recap that. Peyton and I will be at the Minnesota game, so I'm sure we'll have a couple tweets. I'm excited to watch them. I didn't think I'd get to watch Mizzou play in person this year for basketball, so that'll be pretty cool. But yeah, until we speak next time, we'll have a recap of the Florida game. Everyone enjoy that game. Have a fun and safe weekend. This is the Unwritten Rule presented by Bet Online. See you.